start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. This is on behalf of Enfield Council to discuss the Quieter Neighbourhood programme, and in particular the proposal for the Edmonton Green area. My name is Louise Bradley. I work for a company called ECF, and we've been brought in to help facilitate all of these discussions and the community engagement. I'd like to go to the agenda, Sarah, please. Okay, so tonight's agenda. Firstly, as I said, welcome and thanks for giving your Monday evening to come over to listen to what we have to say and to get involved. I'm going to take you through a bit of housekeeping next and how this session will work. And then I'll get the panel to introduce themselves to you. And I'll pass you then back to Sarah, who will run through the Journeys and Places programme and give you an overview of the proposed project in Edmonton Green. Liz will then talk you through the opportunities to be involved with the Communications and Engagement programme, which will run until the 8th of October. And then back to Sarah for some next steps, and then over to you for any questions that you have regarding the presentation. Next slide, please, Sarah. Thank you. So in terms of housekeeping, what we would like you to do when you have a question to ask is use the Q&A function. And so you will see at the top of your screen in the banner at the top, there's a little Q&A tool. If you click on that, you can type questions within it. We'll answer those questions verbally, and we ask that you obviously post your questions at the end of the presentation. It would be really actually insightful and useful for us because the questions from tonight will help feed into the FAQs, which are already live about this project on the domain name you can see there on screen. If you have comments in general about this proposal, rather than a question that you're asking, then please do write the comments in there as well. We just ask that you separate them from the questions, and we can feed those comments into our engagement process and into the report that we write from it. Tonight's webinar is being recorded and will be posted and published on the project page after tonight. And you can see there the link to the project page where you'll be able to share your ideas, issues or general comments that you have around this programme and around this proposal. That will close on Sunday the 8th of October. And if you haven't been able to write that domain name down in time, don't worry, because when it comes to Liz's slide, she does have a QR code on there that you can scan with your phone as well, and that will take you straight to it so that you can keep that logged to make any other comments. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to the panelists in turn to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with you, Liz, please.
Thanks, Louise. Hi everybody, my name's Liz Rhodes. I am the Communications and Engagement Lead for the Journeys and Places programme. So thanks for coming along tonight, and as Louise said, I'll be speaking more about the comms and engagement for this project later on. Mikey?
Oh, you're on mute, Mikey.
Hi everyone, I'm Mikey Christoforou, the Communications Officer for the Journeys and Places programme. Thank you.
Great. And Richard, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, good evening everybody. My name is Richard Eason. I'm the Programme Director for the Journeys and Places programme. So not presenting today as part of the webinar, but around at the end to for any questions where that's helpful. Thank you.
Great. And Ryan?
Hello, I'm Ryan Hicks. I'm a project manager on the Journeys and Places team and working on the Quieter Neighbourhood schemes.
Fantastic. And then over to Sarah, and Sarah will take you through tonight's presentation as well.
Thank you very much. So I'm Sarah Whitehouse. I'm the project manager for these Quieter Neighbourhood projects. I also lead the Neighbourhoods workstream for the Journeys and Places programme. So I'd like to start just by introducing the Journeys and Places programme, which the scheme is a part of. So the Journeys and Places programme, which was previously called the Healthy Streets programme, you might have heard of it referred to as that in the past. This is part of the Enfield Council project, and it's underpinned by the Healthy Streets approach, delivering a range of projects across Enfield. The programme was established for a variety of reasons displayed on the screen. We're in a climate emergency, and so providing options to change the way we travel contributes towards significant reductions in our greenhouse gas emissions. Poor air quality affects our health. By changing some journeys from private vehicle use, particularly for shorter journeys, to more sustainable modes, we can improve air quality and improve our health. Daily physical exercise is important, and many young people, in particular in Enfield, are lacking in physical activity, which can lead to poor health and place extra pressure on the NHS. The Journeys and Places program helps to increase the level of physical activity as part of our daily lives. We found that transport has an impact on social equity and inclusion, and people who live in more deprived areas tend to be disproportionately affected by the impacts of congestion, access to transport, and poor health. Walking and cycling are some low-cost modes of travel and can improve access to public transport, education, employment, and other opportunities in the borough. The Journeys and Places program also looks to address the fact that there has been a steady increase in motor vehicle use over the past 20 years, leading to more congestion on our roads, particularly on minor roads that were not designed to cope with large volumes of traffic. And lastly, whichever way you choose to travel, you should be safe on and near roads. So there are 4 main focus areas of the Journeys and Places program: delivering a walking and cycling network, enhancing town centres and the public realm, making neighbourhoods safer for all road users to walk, wheel and cycle, and informing and inspiring active travel. So what is a quieter neighbourhood? Quieter neighbourhoods form part of a comprehensive approach to reduce the speeds and volumes of motor vehicles in neighbourhoods and to create a safe and attractive environment for people to travel by active and sustainable modes, such as walking, cycling and public transport. A quieter neighbourhood can include a range of features. A few are listed on the slide, but I will talk through them in more detail with some pictures of them later in the presentation. The objectives of a quieter neighbourhood are to enable more people to walk, wheel and cycle and to access public transport, to create safer streets, improve the health and amenity of the local environment, and improve the physical health of people living within a quieter neighbourhood. So at the moment, we've got a quieter neighbourhood being proposed in the Edmonton Green area, and we are in the early stages of the project, understanding issues and ideas from the community that will inform a proposed design. Edmonton Green has been chosen as one of the areas for a potential quieter neighbourhood because it has poor air quality compared with other areas in Enfield. There are poor health and deprivation indicators that could be improved with active travel. There are 2 schools within the area which could benefit from some of the quieter neighbourhood initiatives such as school streets. There are amenities in the area that could be accessed using active travel. There are a high number of collisions for vehicles, pedestrians and people on bikes. And there is a high population density, which would mean that the benefits are further reaching. So the map that you can see here shows the area that's being considered as part of the quieter neighbourhood. It includes the streets that are bounded by Bouncers Road, the A1010, the A406 North Circular to the south, and Montague Road to the east. Throughout the development of the project, we will consider the impact of the quieter neighbourhood on the protected characteristics that are mentioned on the screen. An equalities impact assessment will be produced, which considers how the proposed project will have a positive or negative impact on each of these characteristics. This will be updated as the design progresses. If the assessment finds negative impacts on any of these protected characteristics, then mitigating actions will be considered. An example from the previously implemented Fox Lane quieter neighbourhood was to amend the exemptions policy for some of the modal filters to provide exemptions for blue badge holders that live within the quieter neighbourhood area. So this slide just has some pictures showing some of the potential initiatives and features that we can do to implement a quieter neighbourhood. The first of these is rain gardens. So rain gardens can be proposed along the alignment, and they create green space and capture surface water, which then filters contaminants and reduces flooding. Rain gardens will be planted with a mix of grasses and wildflowers, that are attractive to pollinators and night foraging insects. Next, we have pedestrian and cycle crossing facilities. These crossings could be constructed to enable a safe road crossing for individuals walking, wheeling, or cycling. Wayfinding is another feature we can implement as part of a quieter neighbourhood. So wayfinding signs and markings could be installed along the route to help users navigate throughout their journey. There's school streets, which create pedestrian and cycle zones outside schools during drop-off and pick-up times. Some cars are exempt from school streets, such as residents living within a school street zone, but general vehicles can't drive throughout a school during those specific times. And another key initiative are modal filters, which allow people walking and cycling to pass through them, as well as emergency vehicles and other exempt vehicles. However, general cars cannot pass through a filter. You can still access every street by car if there's a modal filter, but the route you take might change to avoid travelling through the filter itself. This is really useful in preventing rat running through neighbourhoods. I'll now hand over to Liz, who will discuss the communications and engagement.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi again, everybody. So in terms of our communications and engagement activities, we have a project page that's hosted on the Let's Talk Enfield website. That's already been mentioned, but that link is there on the screen, and you can also scan that QR code, which will take you to that page. We are collecting ideas, current issues and other comments from residents, businesses, young people at schools and any other stakeholder who's interested in this project. The main way we're doing that is through the online interactive map, which is hosted on that project page. And that's open until Sunday, the 8th of October in a couple of weeks' time. We have delivered letters to the residents who live in the area. We're posting on social media to promote this opportunity. Obviously, we're hosting tonight's webinar, and we have a couple of drop-in sessions. So we ran one last week, and we have the next coming up this Saturday at Edmonton Green Library. And information on those can be found on the project page. We are also engaging with other stakeholders such as Transport for London and the emergency services. So we meet with both of those quite regularly to discuss these types of projects and hear from them in terms of their comments and any concerns they may have. We'll be updating the project page as the project progresses, and any designs will be shared with the community on that page, as well as information on further engagement and opportunities to get involved. This is going to potentially include a statutory consultation period on a draft traffic order, as it says there. So please stay up to date by signing up to that project page and checking there for project updates. Next slide, please. So this here is just a picture of the online interactive map that I've just mentioned. You can see here that there are pins that have already been posted onto the map to share ideas that people have for the area, as well as any current issues that they think that could be addressed through the project. Next slide. So there's a lot of information that's hosted on the project page alongside the interactive map. So we have the proposed area of the project, frequently asked questions, key dates for the project, including those drop-in dates, information on webinars and other engagement opportunities. We will host any future engagement and consultation opportunities or surveys on that page as well as any future traffic orders and project updates. Thanks. I think I'm handing back to Sarah.
Thank you very much. So now this slide just outlines what the key next steps are for the project. So as Liz mentioned, we're currently in the early engagement stage where we're just collecting ideas and issues from you and members of the community about the Edmonton Green area. Following the engagement closing on the 8th of October, we will then analyse the feedback provided. A report will be published summarising the feedback in the next couple of months. We will then use that feedback to help us prepare some designs. These designs will then be shared with you in early 2024 for you to provide feedback on those proposed designs. The feedback on the designs will be reviewed and will prepare a refined design that will be consulted on as part of the statutory consultation. So as you can see, there are multiple stages throughout the design where you can provide feedback and shape your neighbourhood. Implementation could commence in autumn 2024, subject to feedback and funding. So we've already had one in-person drop-in session, and we've got another one on the Saturday, the 30th of September, from 2:30 to 4:30 at the Edmonton Green Library. We would love for you to attend if you have any further questions. Obviously, we've also got the Q&A function as part of this webinar as well. And there's also an email address there, which you can use to email the Journeys and Places team. Thank you very much. I'm going to now hand back over to Louise to chair the Q&A session.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you there. Okay, so we've had a couple of questions posted already. So the way this will work is I'll read them out to the panel and they'll verbally reply. So our first question is, how much would a proposed scheme like this cost local taxpayers? Who'd like to answer that one?
I'm happy to take this question. So we're working through the total cost for the scheme, and obviously as we go through this engagement stage, we can then develop designs, and those designs will have a big influence on the overall cost. So until we've got those designs, we're obviously not certain what the final fee will be for this for these projects, and there's also a range of funding that's being used for these projects. So we do get funding also from the likes of from TFL and from Section 106 funding as well, which is if there's a development nearby, then it's sort of private funding that contributes to these.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. The next question is that it's a comment really in terms of saying that the area has a lot of issues with fly tipping and rats. I'm wondering if that could be tackled instead of talking about transport. Another comment is that concerns that actually making things more convenient for cyclists doesn't help the elderly or infirm. So I know the fly tipping is a bit out of the remit of this programme. I don't know whether anybody could cover that off, but definitely we can cover off the sort of the cyclist side of things. Richard, sorry, go on.
I can sort of respond to that. Yeah, so we understand that the community will have issues and concerns that might be outside of this project within their areas. I think just relating back to what Sarah said, so the funding that we're currently using to explore this is predominantly Transport for London funding, or funding that's been allocated for transport purposes. So it can be a challenge to reallocate that money to other types of issues that might need attention. And what often happens in these cases is if a borough, for example, such as Enfield, turns down the opportunity to spend some transport money that's been given by a third party, then that money simply goes to a different borough for them to spend on transport functions. And we do think as a team that by investing in these type of projects, we can improve the quality of the communities that we're living in. But if there are key issues that people have got, or particular hotspots that people are concerned about, then by all means add those to the engagement map, and we'll pass that on as well and raise that with other colleagues in the council.
That's great, thank you, Richard. I don't know if you can cover off anything on helping the elderly or infirm in the area in terms of accessibility.
Yes, I'm happy to speak to this one. So obviously the comment was sort of around, that if we make it more convenient for cyclists, this is not going to help the elderly. These quieter neighbourhoods, it's not just about cycling, it's about all forms of active travel and making it easier to also access public transport. So, for example, quieter neighbourhoods could be looking at making it wider footpaths, so it's easier and more accessible for people to walk around their neighbourhood as well. And as I said, also those connections to public transport that the elderly might be wanting to use that as well.
Great, thank you, Sarah. And then a question, is a quieter neighbourhood the same as a low traffic neighbourhood, or sometimes referred to as an LTN?
Would you like me to take this one?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so yep, so we've got there is a difference between the two. So yeah, so low traffic neighbourhoods are really looking at sort of trying to reduce traffic within a neighbourhood, and so that is usually through modal filters. A quieter neighbourhood is broader than that, so it can include things like low traffic neighbourhoods with reducing traffic for modal filters, but it can also be much broader with the likes of school streets, providing cycle parking, could be doing things like 20-mile-per-hour speed limits. So it's a much broader view to try and create a safer and basically a nicer neighbourhood for you to be able to enjoy and live.
Great, thank you. Next question is, do you have any proposed plans yet for the new modal filters or gates, it said?
So at this stage, we're in the early phase of the project. As we mentioned, we're really just trying to gather feedback from the community on what your issues and ideas are, and those will inform some concept designs, which we will then share with the community. And there you'll see what some of the proposals will be, and you will again get an opportunity to provide feedback on those designs.
Right. There's a question next is, will the proposed project push traffic onto surrounding roads?
So as part of the design process, we will be looking and doing a traffic impact assessment. So looking at how these proposals will impact on the surrounding road network. We have found that when there have been other quieter neighbourhoods, or in some other boroughs when they have done their low traffic neighbourhoods, that there actually has been a big decrease in the volume of traffic within the neighbourhood area without a substantial increase on the outside roads, and that's generally because people have started to use alternative forms of transport as well. And so yeah, it does end up with that reduction within the neighbourhood without a significant increase on the boundary roads.
Thanks, Sarah. Can we just flip onto the slide that shows the map as well, if you can?
Yes.
And people can just see that while they're asking their questions.
There we go.
That's fab. Thank you. So our next question is, there are real issues with parking on yellow lines and blocking pedestrians from crossing the roads. Modal filters could cause more issues. Why don't the traffic wardens take action on parked cars, including parking in the bus lanes?
I can take that one if you wish.
Yeah, please.
So again, I'd encourage people, if there's particular hotspots, and we can see the map here, so if there's particular places where you think that issue is ongoing, then do tell us through the map, through the digital map, by dropping a pin at that location. So of course, enforcement activity is all part of the measures that we need to be taking forward with our colleagues in the department that are responsible for that. Obviously, there's only so much resources, and it's a large borough, and so again, finding out information from residents of key hotspots is a really helpful way of which we can target what is a limited resource to really try and carry out enforcement activities at those hotspots. So yeah, please do let us know where those locations are that you think there's a problem.
Great, thank you, Richard. Next question, what are you doing about the cyclists who cycle quickly up and down the pavement on 4th Street?
So I can do that one as well. So I think we're down on 4th Street. So I think along 4th Street there are some areas where there is segregated cycling provision that sits alongside the footway, so the two are level. There's, I think, a series of what we call sets or small cobbles, if you like, that delineate the different spaces. So in those spaces, then, and the place where people who are cycling should be on is like a buff type of colour, so they shouldn't be drifting on and off the footways. If it's but cycling is allowed in those locations. If it's other places on the footway, in a different example, and obviously I'm not too sure where, then people, unless they're sort of very young children or whatever, and even then it should be done cautiously, shouldn't be cycling on the footways. And that's really the key reason why, as part of the programme, so not just this Quieter Neighbourhood project, but as part of the wider programme, we're looking at building a network of cycle lanes all across the borough so that people can cycle safely within some protected space, so they're not cycling on the footway. Often people are cycling on the footway because they're too afraid of sharing the space with fast moving traffic on the roads. Obviously that doesn't create a comfortable environment for pedestrians, so it's a key reason why we want to design and dedicate some space to people cycling. Ultimately, enforcement of that activity is a police matter rather than a council matter. But yes, we'll do everything we can to design the amount of space that everybody needs, so that everybody can choose how they want to get around, whether that's by car, by foot, by cycling, by bus, and that there's space for everybody to move around in a way that's sort of fair and equitable.
Great, thank you. And while we're still on cycling there, Richard, is there an opportunity for bike hangers to be included as part of this scheme?
Yes, so I think if people don't know what a bike hanger is, was that in the presentation? I'm not sure. Apologies. So they're really a secure some secure cycle parking that sits on the streets. Some people think of it as a large bread bin, and you can put your bicycle in there and lock it up, and a resident can apply for a space, so that it helps enable cycling to be a more accessible and a more sort of convenient option. So it is possible, again, subject to funding, that we'd be able to place some of that cycle parking provision within the neighbourhood. Again, it goes back to the idea of placing a pin on the map, if that's something that you're interested in or you think is a place where that would be useful. This phase of the engagement really is about getting as many insights from the community as possible, so that we can inform that what that design might look like going forward. So any ideas, if you're unsure about whether to include it, I'd just recommend you put it on the map. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. What are the benefits people have seen from the introduction of QNs in other areas?
Would you like me to? I could take this one.
Yeah, please, Sarah.
Yeah. So yeah, we've found that in some of the other areas that have had quite a neighbourhood, so there'll be a drastic reduction in the amount of traffic sort of within the neighbourhood area, and so that means that it's quieter for people who are sort of living within the neighbourhood. There's improved air quality, and they're able to just walk around their neighbourhood a lot easier, because there's not that risk of vehicles sort of travelling quite quickly through where they're living. So those are just some of the improvements we've seen. There's also been a lot of greening through things like the addition of planting and studs, which we mentioned before about the rain gardens. I think I referred to them as. I don't know if there's anything else people would like to add.
I'll just add. So in the Fox Lane Quieter Neighbourhood, so the closure there of one road, Devonshire Road, has created the opportunity to create a new piece of public realm and a new public space, essentially, where the community then been able to host different events. It's created some more space for outdoor seating, and I think this market's been held there, and the council actually, as part of another project, is going to be looking at how that, and our team, in fact, the Journeys and Places team, looking at how that space can develop. So there are sometimes opportunities of just thinking about how we use public space, public highway differently, and whether we, certain sections of it we can use to bring broader benefits than just sort of motor vehicles passing through. As I think we've said before, if there are any type of closures used, and we don't know that at this stage. But there's always car access to every area within the neighbourhood, and that's the same in Fox and Bowes. So it's not like we're preventing access. All roads are accessible, but sometimes your route changes, and by reclaiming a little bit of public space for different purposes, we can bring broader benefits for the community. Thank you.
Okay, great. And in terms of those benefits, are they reported by, are we getting benefits reported by attendees, by actual residents, or is that your own sort of studies? How are those benefits being documented?
I'll take that one as well. So for the previous schemes, we monitor the projects. So we're looking at understanding the level of traffic volume reduction, for example, within the areas, and then from that, understanding and looking at any air quality impacts, any impacts on noise, and the levels of active travel. But I would say that these types of projects, the whole program, in fact, is really a long-term change program. So that you don't always some benefit, some residents and some roads that's seen lots of through traffic. If that through traffic is addressed, we'll see quite immediate benefits. But some other people in the area might perceive some disbenefits from that if that's impacting their access route to their own home, for example. But really, what we're looking at is looking forward. So for the next generation and for future generations, even for those generations not yet born, how are they going to travel around the borough? What type of a borough do we want to live in? And starting to make changes now to really secure those long-term benefits. So sometimes there are some quick wins, but things take time, and it's about putting together this project with a range of others to enable the change that we want to see. And because we understand that if we keep seeing the growth in private motor traffic, then the whole network will sort of grind to a halt. So we do measure lots of things, but we're also taking a long-term view.
That's great, thanks, Richard. And in terms of school streets, you touched on that, Sarah. I wonder if you can give a little bit more detail on that, as there are 2 schools in the area.
Yeah, so school streets, it's basically a sort of a zone, I guess, around the entrance to the school gate, and between at pick-up and drop-off times. Generally, it varies, but it's usually roughly about half an hour for drop-off in the morning and about half an hour for pick-up in the evening. You end up with the road that's surrounding the gate, the entrance gate, to be a pedestrian and cycle only zone. And so that means that it makes it a lot safer for children walking to school in the mornings. And again, that air quality as well, a big improvement on the air quality for children as they're walking into the school gates. If you're a resident that does live within that zone, you're still able to drive through the school street to enter or exit your property. But other vehicles, for example, parents dropping off their children, would not be doing that.
Great, thanks, Sarah. And that leads me on to our question about the sort of numbers of people that have been involved to date, and how I had the opportunity to be involved in this programme or this particular project. Do you want to take that, Liz?
Yeah, thank you. So we sent out 35,000 letters to residents and properties, including businesses in the area, when the engagement launched on the 11th of September. So that week was when letters started to hit doorsteps. We had about 25 to 30 people attend the drop-in session last week. Like I said, we've got another one that's being held this Saturday at Edmonton Green Library. So that is from 2:30 until 4:30 p.m. in the afternoon. And anybody can come down and just drop in to speak to us during that time. In terms of the online map, we have had 65 pins from 29 different participants. So please do go on and share your ideas and issues on that map, or come and see us at the drop-in on Saturday. There'll be a number of us here on the call there on the day. We've also had materials translated into 9 different languages. So the resident letter that went out, as well as the text of the information boards, they are available in those languages on the project page. And the project page can also be translated into 25 different languages. So it is still a very early stage of the project, like it has been spoken about tonight, where hearing from people about their ideas for the area, hearing about current issues in the area that might be able to be addressed through the project. We don't have a design that's being presented for people to comment on. So we are trying to hear from as many and as much of a diverse voice of the community as possible. So please do get involved. If there's any community groups that you know of that you think would be interested, please reach out to them. We are also reaching out to community groups, schools, places of worship, and other stakeholder groups that we are in contact with in the area. We're doing business engagement, so all businesses in the area have been visited now, and many have taken part in a survey that's collecting their ideas and issues as well. We're looking to run a couple of school workshops, as well as a workshop with disabled people to hear from different perspectives, like I said, about what they want to see for the area. So there's a range of different activities happening. Yeah, and we hope to see more and more people engaged in the next couple of weeks.
That's great. Thank you, Liz. I'm going to throw it back open now for any further questions. We are happy to run this webinar for a further sort of 15 minutes or so. Well, it's actually open until 7 o'clock, but if there aren't any other further questions, we're also would be ready to wrap it up for the evening. So well, we've got a question here. Is this recording available to share after this webinar? Yes, it is. It's being posted on the project website. Liz, could you bring up that domain again, please? Just
yeah,
so
Sarah, could you just flick to that slide, please?
Sorry, the QR code.
Yeah, the page with the link. This one.
There we go.
It.
Great.
Thanks.
So you can see the domain link there. It's on the main Let's Talk Enfield site, and there's a particular project page for Edmonton Green, and there's a QR code there that you can also hover over that will take you to that page. So the recording from this webinar should be live on there. Is that tomorrow? Will it be tomorrow, Liz?
Yep.
Or, yeah, it'll be tomorrow. That'd be great. Yeah, I think that's everything, unless there are any other questions from anybody. Okay, no further questions? Okay, well, that's great. Thank you so much, everybody, for giving your time this evening on a Monday evening. And as we've said, we'll update the FAQs with the questions that have come through. You can listen to the webinar, see the webinar recording tomorrow on the website. And you can also find details there of the next drop-in session, which is on Saturday afternoon. So thank you very much and good evening.